Morning.
Good morning.
Sono 7 in Italia, giusto?
No, professore, sono le 6.
Ah, 6, Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, buongiorno.
Da Bari e da Roma sei connesso, lei?
No, prof da Bari.
La prima è in presenza. No, dico il chi ci sta? Morano, Italiano.
Scegliete quella posso presente.
Sì, presento io il primo, sì.
L'ultimo lo presenta Francesco il giudice.
Sì.
Quindi sono tutti virtuali. Dico sono tutti virtuali.
Sì, sì, sì. Sì.
Ok, iniziamo.
Sì.
Ok, perfetto. Ok. So, dear good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all of you connected from home and present in Hanoi, depending on where you are in the world. The second session of the workshop entitled Socioeconomic Models for Land Use Management, organized in collaboration with Professors Pierluigi Morano, Benedetto Manganelli, and Deborah Nelli, respectively from the Polytechnic Institute of Bari, University of Basilicata, and La Sapienza University of Rome, and the engineer Francesco Paolo Del Giudice from La Sapienza University of Rome is about to begin. There are 5 research papers in this session, all presented in virtual mode, and order will respect that defined by the conference program. The work of authors Maria Rosera Trovato and Vittoria Ventura will not be presented due to a combination of commitments on the part of the authors themselves, so the authors of the fourth and fifth presentation are invited to connect in advance. The time for each presentation is approximately 15 minutes, and at the end of the session, it will be possible to ask a question, curiosity, or observation in order to increase, improve, and stimulate the scientific discussion. So the first presentation is entitled, one moment. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the first presentation is entitled The Optimal Functional Mixture for Student Housing Initiative, an Italian case study. It is carried out in collaboration with Pierluigi Morano, Francesco Tajani, Marco Locurcio, and Felice Di Lito. The aim of the work is to define a goal programming model able to maximize the profit of the private subject involved into the initiative that concern the enhancement of student housing accommodation. It concerns the definition of a management model that provides for the possibility of allocating part of the room to tourist hospitality, especially for the structures that are situated in a location with a good tourist location. Which take the form of hybrid structures for mixed use called student-aid hotel. Starting from this consideration, an optimization problem was objective is to identify the optimal mix of function that allows the maximization of the profit of the structure manager is proposed. Student housing is one of the most important also alternative asset classes within the real estate sector. Student housing tends to experience consistent demand as there is a continuous increase of students every year seeking accommodation near educational institutions. The steady demand can provide a stable rental income stream, making it an attractive investment opportunity. Since the middle 1990s, purpose-built student accommodation has emerged as an alternative to traditional types of private housing and has become an increasingly important source of housing for students. It shares some features with dormitories. They are designed for student needs and the rooms are generally shared, but unlike dormitories, it is a service provided by market operators, so private part, and it is based on the rent of bed. Growth trends, including digital integration, value for money, amenities, ESG impact, and more, are shaping the future of the student housing market. Here are some student accommodation market trends shaping the future of modern living in 2024. First of all, the smart technology. Students are often willing to pay a premium for smart technology and modern amenities in their abodes. Common facilities like high-speed Wi-Fi, high-tech security systems are valued higher for students than other features. Second, the off-campus housing on the rise. Diverse student housing options, high-end amenities, and inclusive utility bills are the factors students consider before booking their accommodation. In recent times, students have been more open to exploring the off-campus housing option over traditional housing setup like dorms, further shaping the student housing market. With the limited on-campus option available, combined with evolving student preferences favoring privacy and modern amenities, there has been a rise in demand for off-campus housing. This dynamic shift highlights the need for comfortable living environments through diverse property types that cater the on-ground expectation of students for modern and tech-savvy accommodation. Mixed-use project for both saving and learning. This is the third trend. New types of student housing options are mirroring and adapting to off-campus living styles. Modern abodes now offer an urban aesthetic combined with a plethora of modern amenities, essential to meet the academic, social, and daily needs of students, ranging from on-site convenience store to in-house coffee shops. Mixed-use student housing projects are on the rise with changing students' preferences. The fourth trend relates to the sustainability footprint. Sustainability is an integral trend for the student housing market and environment. According to the Global Student Living Index, a majority of 87% of students responded positively in a survey to integrate sustainable efforts in student accommodation. Nowadays, students prefer staying closer to university for convenience, while also considering the greener transport option for commuting from their accommodation to the university. The number of Italian post-secondary education students was significant in the last academic year. International significant opportunity for growth to satisfy the met demand are located in the Italian context. Italian market in its entirety has a 25.5% level of satisfied demand and still some 74.5% growth potential to fulfill the met demand. Pavia has the highest satisfied demand ratio, whilst at the other end, Bologna has the lowest fulfillment rate, and Rome even lower than the Italian market average. In summary, Italian accommodation for students varies greatly depending on the city. Rome presents significant challenges, as there are few proposals for new developments until 2027. On the contrary, Milan aims to reach a provision rate of around 10%, a goal that still falls short with respect to the European standards. The supply of student accommodation in Italy falls significantly short, meeting the escalating demand from both international and national students. Italy and Portugal, in comparison to, for example, Denmark and the UK, show the most inadequate provision rates. The future student housing supply in the main Italian cities will see over 23,000 and more beds to be completed by 2027. The current bed supply in Italy is almost 75,000 of beds, but most of them are regional facilities under the right to university education, whilst 20% are managed by private operators, 12% are directly managed by university, and the remaining 7% are legally recognized private and public student housing. So this is just promising prospect for investment growth potential in Italy. In recent years, the students have seen an evolution of their management model, including the possibility of allocating part of the room to tourist hospitality, especially for those structures that are located in the location with a good tourist vocation. This in the structure for student housing hotel use, there are different types of rooms. For example, single, double, mini accommodation, which carry out various alternative functions, that is, throughout here for student housing and an ad hoc fee, or at a market fee, or for part of the year for student house and for receptive use, or exclusively for receptive use. Starting from this consideration, in the present research, a problem of optimization is structured whose aim consists in identification of the mix of optimal functions that allows the maximization of the profit of the private manager of the structures. In particular, defining the aim of the problem, the variables are represented by the number of rooms relative to the different type related to the different function. The only constraints consist in the imposition that the number of rooms belong to the set of natural numbers, and that the sum of the number of rooms for each type is less than the number of rooms belonging to that type present in the structure. The described problem is summarized in this table that you can see in the slide, and it is solved through the implementation of the simplex algorithm, particularly suitable for solving linear programming problems. The problem described above is implemented in a case study on the development of a building located in the center of a medium-sized city in southern Italy to be used as a hybrid student residence. The project involves the renovation of an existing property with the creation of a structure that can accommodate a maximum of 72 users divided into 40 rooms. And inside the property, it is also planned to build a bar, a restaurant, canteen, and a conference room. To characterize the demand for beds, a comparative analysis is carried out of the number of students enrolled, registered students, and foreign students enrolled in the last 10 years, with a reference to the city itself, the region, and Italy, the national territory. The analysis of the trend associated with the trend of enrollment for the academic year shows a growth in the student population attending the university, growth in line with national data and more pronounced than regional data. The enrollment trend shows, starting from the academic year 2019 and 2020, a market growth of new students in the university, reflecting national data and exceeding regional ones. And finally, if we focus exclusively on the number of enrolled foreigners, there is a constant increase in enrollment both in university and at the regional and national levels, with higher in the university than regional and national. For the determination of the profit of the manager, it was necessary to reconstruct all the revenues and costs associated with this type of structures. The main form of revenue is linked to the rooms, so downstream of a market analysis, it was planned for each type of room the monthly rate, assuming that the function is student, and the daily rate in the hotel hypothesis, variable depending on the seasonality. It is assumed that the preferential rate will be less than 15% compared to the standard rate. The turnover related to the canteen, restaurant, and bar business activities has been estimated assuming an average daily consumption and an average amount per meal, both variable by type of consumption and user. The turnover deriving from the conference activity is determined assuming the number of annual events and the revenue associated with the event rental, aligned with the reference market. In order to accelerate this process, the National Program for Resilience foresees an active role for private investors through the co-financing of action to acquire the availability of beds for student housing by obtaining the right of ownership or establishing a long-term or other form of use of the buildings. Expenditure eligible for part financing shall relate to the purchase of building or parts or to rent or other use under contracts of more than 9 years duration. The building must be suitable for the function of university residence and managed directly by the proposer or after agreement with the proposers by both public and private entities. In the case of purchase, the costs incurred for the execution of the work after the purchase are eligible for co-financing, but no redevelopment is allowed. In accordance with the incentive mechanism activated by the national level, two scenarios are hypothesized in the present work. The first is called business as usual and provides for the resolution of the previous problem of operational research. And the second scenario, called project, provides for the identification of the functional mix capable of maximizing the operator's profit while maintaining unchanged the fee defined in the previous scenario, providing for a financing of 75% of the rent and adding the previously described constraint to ensure the predominance of the student function over the tourist receptive one. The application of the algorithm to maximize the profit of the manager highlights, in the case of the first scenario, the achievement of the maximum profit in the event that all the rooms are used as a mixed function or as auto use from 15th of June to 15th of September and use of student accommodation in the remaining period of the year. The application in the case of the project scenario leads to the achievement of the maximum profit in the case of a fair distribution of rooms compared to the full function provided. This means that 55% of the rooms are used for student accommodation at the market rent, and another 55% accommodation at discount rate, 55% exclusively for tourist accommodation, and the last for mixed use. That is in the period of high season for hotel use and the rest of the year for student use. Analyzing the performances associated to the two different scenarios, we can observe that the profit of the manager in the two cases is comparable. In scenario of project, there is an increase of the ratio profit to revenues, and there are interesting performance for the ratio revenues cost regarding the first scenario. This result not only guarantees in the project scenario a greater promotion of hospitality for the serving students and deprived of other means, but allows a minimization of the risk associated with management guaranteed by the presence of a high differentiation function throughout the year. On the other hand, in the project scenario, there is an increase in complexity in the management of the structure, and is strongly constrained the performance associated with the management model to the financing guaranteed by the plan of resilience in the Italian context. So, going to the conclusion, in this case, a management model of student house type has been proposed, and in order to determine the maximum profit of the manager to vary the alternative function. In this way, by applying the principle of operational research in Go programming problems, it was possible to compare the result derived from the two scenarios, respectively business as usual and project. The comparison and analysis of the obtained result allowed to show that in both the scenarios, the profit of the manager is similar, while the ratio between profit and revenues and costs is better in the project scenario. This means that not only in the project scenario, greater promotion of hospitality for the service is granted, but this allowed a minimization of the risk. So the future development of the present research consists in the application of a sensitivity analysis in order to determine the trend of profit as function change in the application to case studies that pertain to different content and reshaping of co-financing according to a target profits. Moreover, a better and an improvement in identification of the role of the Italian plan on the real estate values will be determined and included in the future inside of this research, in order also to maybe consider an increase in the number of constraints and application of different algorithms. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola.
Thank
Do you hear
you.
me?
Yes.
And just a little note, just a little comment to your presentation. I propose a solution for the use related to emit demand. I, I propose to stimulate and push students to enroll in a small university of the southern Italy. This suffer from a lack of students, and the living and the housing is also less expensive, and the study is equal or better.
Yes.
This is the lucky solution.
Thank you so much, Professor. Okay, so we can move on to the second presentation of this session, that is entitled A Rational Method for the Weak Assessment of the Area's Weights Applied to the Italian Context.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You can share your screen when you want.
Yeah. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, I am Davide Dugo. This study concerns the identification and the application of an innovative tool that allows for the assessment of the positional rent weight of an area. The primary goal of this tool is to enable public and private entities to understand the impact of each microzone within the considered territory through a coefficient that takes into account their location. This method was developed to address the challenges met in estimating buildable areas using traditional methods, with the aim of integrating with this method to make the estimation more reliable by considering the positional rent. The positional rent is closely linked to the location of an area and depends on the presence or absence of the services, such as proximity to the subway, presence of park, and social context. By analyzing European and Italian real estate data, it is evident how the location of an area influences a property price. For example, in Spain, the average value for the residential building are about 2,000 euro per square meter, while in Barcelona and Madrid are above 4,000 euro per square meter. In contrast, in Vibo Valencia, the average value for the residential building are low, and then the construction cost, while in Milan there are 4,600 euro per square meter. Therefore, it can be affirmed that these significant differences in property valuation are closely linked to the characteristics and services that city offer and are distinguished by. Hence, there arises a need for a tool that allows for the determination of advantages, even where they are not easily identifiable, and that enables the consideration of the weight of location in the estimation of the buildable areas. This procedure was created to overcome the issues generally linked to the buildable areas assessment using regular procedures currently used. The problems met with the use of direct procedures lead to the indirect procedure application. Generally, the transformation value used as the method, particularly using discounted cash flow analysis, generally, the transformation value is used as the method, particularly using discount cash flow analysis. Despite being the canon method recommended by the international standard, it is affected by an uncertainty still due to the different aleatory applications, such as just the discount rate, identification of analysis period, and the establishment of development phase. Using this method would lead to an uncertainties outcome. It is necessary to have a quick tool which allows the identification, locate the area's market value, and acts as verification to the current methods. The uncertainties of the standard procedures led to the creation of a brand new tool. The aim is to be integrative rather than alternative to the methods currently used. In fact, one of its application is the verification and control of a discounted cash flow analysis. Additionally, the proposed method gained significant importance following the modifications made by Legislative Decree 3623 on project levels. Since the second level of design has been abolished, a better dialogue and connection between the technical and economic feasibility project and the executive project is necessary. The proposed method facilitates this, as the factor used incorporate the locational effect and account for the specificities of the market context under analysis, reducing uncertainties. It gains significant importance in light of the urban regeneration and redevelopment project envisaged by the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. One of its missions is to address the periphery, where the areas may not be free, but instead contain industrial warehouses or require remediation or abandoned building. And utilizing the proposed method allows for the identification of advantages even in these complex situations. An additional application proves beneficial for both public and private entities, such as in public and private partnership. It provides support to the private sector in identifying potential returns from the operation and assists public entities in defining win-win project solution. It therefore proposed as a quick method for private individuals and public administration to manage and understand these advantages. The goal of this method is to measure the rent in terms of the impact of the build-up land value by identifying a coefficient or an area impact factor. This coefficient was set by the formula proposed by Gianni Guerrieri in Il Mercato della Casa, which identified a marginal area with zero rent represented by minimum valuation. Other areas which have a productive capacity linked to their location exhibit a differential rent compared to the marginal area. Since the differential rent is given by the difference between the valuation of a given area and the marginal area, it is possible to determine the area impact factor by dividing the differential rent by the valuation of the reference area. The real estate valuation expressed euro per square meter and used for determining the impact factor derived from the valuation of the OMI zones for the first half of 2023 published by the Revenue Agency. By OMI zone, we mean a portion of the municipal territory that exhibit homogeneity in a series of external characteristics. Using this formula, it was possible to calculate the area impact factor at the national level for all Italian provinces, specifically the work on the residential sector, considering the home zones be central, semi-central, and the peripheral. Having identified the urban rent impact factor for all home microzones in the Italian provinces, georeferenced map was created using QG software to illustrate its distribution across the territory. Upon completing the map, data analysis was conducted, revealing that in most provinces, central zone exhibits a higher impact factor, as shown in the map in the figure. This gradual trend is mainly observable in the northern provinces of Italy. In the rest of Italy, however, there are many different situations, and it is more common to find a fragmented distribution of impact factor. For example, internally, the distribution is quite regular. Additionally, for provinces along the coast or near the lakes, it is evident that the impact factor is higher for the macrozones located along the coast. Upon completing the comprehensive analysis for each individual provinces, a national map was created depicting the average incidence of the rent for each province. As illustrated by the map, the incidence factor is evenly distributed with value ranging between 15 and 30%. In order to determine the trend of incidence factor across different macro area, a mean value for each province was calculated for each macro area. As can be observed from the very gradations on the map, the center exhibit highest percentages. The same procedure was applied to the regions as well. Initially, an average was calculated considering all macro areas. Subsequently, maps divided by a macro area was produced. The trend identified in the provinces is evidently mirrored in the regions, where the center has the highest percentages and periphery the lowest. Finally, a national map divided into the north, center, and south zones was created to identify the average incidence factor. The aim of this project was to supply an innovative tool which is able to measure the positional rent weight. The main achievements are a detailed abacus which allows for the rapid identification of an area impact factor for each macrozone in every Italian provinces, and georeferencing maps of each province and the international territory through an easily consultable graphical interface. The main benefits are a quick assessment of building the area taking into account their location, and identification of advantages in urban regeneration and redevelopment project to serve as a control tool in direct procedure, especially for discounted cash flow analysis. This method finds further applications, such as supporting municipalities in estimating buildable areas for the purpose of calculating property tax, assisting municipalities in determining the market value for reduction of public housing areas, and integration with the cost approach method in cases where it is necessary to estimate the market value of property for which market reference are scarce. Using the proposed method make it possible to account for the importance of location. The adapter procedure suggests several directions for future research, such as application of this tool as a comparative verification for a discounted cash flow analysis across multiple case studies to test and validate the method, and implementation of the method for other land uses, possibly in a combined manner, where large urban redevelopment projects envisage a mixture of function. And finally, another research perspective concerns the temporal analysis of the area impact factor for each OMI microzone in order to reconstruct the evolution of position rent across the international territory. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Davide. Thank you for your interesting research. I don't know, there are some question, or does anyone want to ask to the author some curiosity, or anyone? Okay, so maybe we can move on to the third presentation of the session. It is entitled Impacts of Urban Decay on the Residential Property Market, an application to the city of Rome in Italy.
Yes. I share my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good morning. I am Emma Sabatelli, a PhD student from Sapienza University of Rome, and the research that I will present today is carried out with professors Deborah Anelli, Pierluigi Morano, and Francesco Tajani. The presentation is organized into 7 sections. It begins with a description of the framework on which the research is based, followed by the definition of the aim of the work. Next, the steps of the research process and the proposed methodology will be outlined. And then the methodology will be applied to a case study, leading to a discussion of the results and conclusions. This research is set in the context of issues related to decay within urban areas. Urban decay, in fact, represents a significant challenge for many cities. It is a complex, multifactorial process which consists in the deterioration of physical, social, and economic aspects of urban spaces. This phenomenon is characterized by a convergence of interrelated factors of different nature. From a physical environmental perspective, urban decay is evident in the declining condition of the built environment. Common indicators include abandoned or degraded buildings, often neglected over time, and showing structural deterioration or degraded fronts. These buildings may also be constructed of obsolete materials such as asbestos, resulting in environmental hazards. In addition, poor maintenance of public spaces such as green areas, streets, and street furniture contributes to a general sense of neglect and decay. From a social point of view, urban decay manifests itself in increased crime rates, which significantly affect residents' perception of security. In fact, an unsafe neighborhood can deeply affect the daily lives of its residents, driving some to relocate to areas with better physical and social infrastructure. This relocation often results in a demographic shift, with those who cannot access quality housing and infrastructure staying in these degraded areas. Urban decay is also associated with higher rates of poverty and economic disparity due to limited job opportunities and limited access to social services. From an economic point of view, urban decay manifests itself through several factors that contribute to the decline in economic activities, employment, and overall prosperity of affected areas. These areas, in fact, often experience disinvestment as higher risks discourage investors from financing improvements. This lack of investment leads to physical deterioration of buildings and spaces, accelerating their obsolescence and decreasing even more the attractiveness of the neighborhood. As a result, commercial activities decline, leading to an increase in closed stores, empty spaces, and low commercial diversity. These changes have a negative impact on the quality of services offered and are reflected in declining property values. Indeed, the real estate market reflects urban transformation, so physical, demographic, and economic. Property prices are influenced by intrinsic, so property-related features, and extrinsic, so context-related characteristics, such as available services, quality of urban and green spaces, and public infrastructure. Therefore, urban decay problems have a direct impact on real estate market, leading to reduced property values. So assessing the impact of urban decay on property values is critical for public and private subjects involved in planning urban redevelopment strategies. In fact, understanding these economic consequences can guide more effective interventions in areas affected by the phenomenon. In this context, the aim of this work is to define a regressive methodological approach to determine the effects of urban decay factors on housing market values. The proposed methodological approach is applied to the residential sector of Rome. The analysis focuses on 117 trade areas identified by the Real Estate Market Observatory of the Italian Revenue Agency. The objective of the study is carried out through a structured approach, which begins with the identification of a set of explanatory variables. This is followed by data collection and analysis of correlations between the variables. And the methodological regression approach is used to clarify these relationships. Finally, the results are discussed. To examine the effects of urban decay factors on the residential housing market in Rome, a weighted least squares regression model was implemented in the study. This is a variant of ordinary least square model that addresses the problem of heteroscedasticity, in which the variance of the errors varies across observations in the model. Unlike OLS, WLS assigns weight to observations based on the inverse of their variance. As a result, observations with higher estimated variances receive lower weights, while those with lower variances receive higher weights. This methodological adjustment ensures that the analysis takes into account different levels of uncertainty in the data, thus improving the reliability of the identified relationships between urban decay factors and residential property values in Rome. In applying WLS regression model, the initial step was to identify the dependent and the independent variables. For this study, the dependent variable is the residential unit price expressed in euro per square meters reported by Remo for the first half of 2023. The set of explanatory variables was identified through a review of national and international literature. The selected set includes 6 quantitative factors carefully chosen to comprehensively capture social, economic, and environmental dimensions in the areas. These variables are divided into socioeconomic and environmental factors reflecting the main contextual characteristics of the areas. And in addition, variables related to urban decay were included to highlight specific factors relevant to urban decay phenomena identified through the case study and the literature review conducted. Specifically, socioeconomic and environmental variables comprise residential population, per capita income, and green park areas. The variable residential population indicates the number of individuals who reside in the remote zone based on the data from the latest ISTAT population census. So, income per capita measures the hypothetical gross domestic product per capita of each zone in a given period, quantified in euros per year. And finally, surface of the urban green parks refers to the square kilometers of green park within the boundaries of each zone. Among the urban decay variables, the first is the surface of degraded urban areas measured in square kilometers. This surface is identified using the index of social disease and the index of construction disease, both calculated by ISTAT for a 2015 call for funding interventions in degraded urban areas. These indices are greater than 1, indicating significant levels of decay. The other two variables include the index of social disease and the index of construction disease. The first one is a weighted average of deviations from national average values of indicators such as unemployment rate, employment rate, youth concentration rate, and education rate based on the ISTAT census data. The index of construction disease compares the state of building conservation in degraded urban areas to national average values. It considers the percentage of residential buildings in degraded urban areas classified as very bad or mediocre in terms of conservation, weighted by the national average percentage of such buildings. So once the set of variables is defined, data are collected for each area, including the 6 explanatory variables chosen along with the dependent variable. Once the dataset is completed, a correlation analysis is conducted to identify significant relationships among the variables that may affect the robustness of subsequent regression analysis in the proposed methodology. Among these correlations, variables A and D have unique negative association with the dependent variable Y. In addition, negative correlations are observed between the variables P and D and P and DE, as well as between the variables R and A, V and A, and V and DE. Notably, the highest correlation is observed between per capita income, R, and the dependent variable Y for housing unit prices with a value of 0.9282 and a positive sign. The implementation of the WLS regression model has resulted in a highly efficient model, achieving an R score of a value of 0.986. Notably, upon examining the obtained p-values, the per capita income variable exhibits the highest significance, while the index of construction disease shows the lowest. The surface area of urban degraded areas demonstrates an inverse relationship with the dependent variable. This suggests that an increase in the area of urban decay leads to a decrease in residential unit prices. Conversely, the surface of urban green parks shows a positive relationship with the residential unit prices, indicating that larger green spaces are associated with higher property values. So, regarding the urban decay variables, an increase in variable A corresponds to a decrease of approximately 435 euro per square meters in residential property values, reflecting its marginal price effect. Variable D, representing social disease, exhibits an inverse relationship with residential unit prices. In fact, a 1 unit increase in this index within each zone results in a decrease of about 299 euro per square meters in the dependent variable. Variable D, pertaining to construction disease, is the least significant among those considered. Among the socioeconomic and environmental variables, the residential population shows a positive relationship with housing prices, In fact, a unit increase in population corresponds to a residential value increase of 256 euro per square meters. Variable R, indicating the per capita income, is the most significant. In fact, a positive relationship indicates that a 1 unit change in income per capita results in a change of 7,300 euro per square meters in residential prices. It is consistent with the empirical evidence and the reference literature in the field. In fact, income level is considered a fundamental determinant of real estate housing prices. Finally, the variable representing urban green park areas also shows a positive relationship with the residential property values. In fact, an increase in park area by one unit corresponds to an increase of approximately 210 euro per square meters in residential prices. In conclusion, the proposed methodological approach is based on clarity and transparency using a structured and sequential process. By addressing issues of heteroscedasticity, the model remains efficient and robust, and it is adaptable to different spatial contexts and housing markets. This methodology supports public subjects to identify critical urban areas that require intervention, thereby improving overall livability and urban quality. Future research efforts will focus on incorporating new explanatory variables into the model. In addition, it is planned to compare this methodology with alternative econometric regression, to incorporate key indicators and to study how different measures affect the results of the regression model. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you so much. There are some questions or observations for this presentation.
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have a question. I don't understand how you have assigned the weight to the variable that you consider as a dummy of a social size.
We don't have dummy variables. We have the values of each index in terms of social disease.
040, 030, in the slide you show us the variable of the social size. I read the weight 0, 4, 0, 3. I understand how do you see this weight.
Emma, please, can you share the slide?
Yes, I'm sharing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. These are the values established by the National Institute of Statistics. So this is exactly the algebraic function that the Italian Institute of Statistics use for determining both indexes, and in this case we have used this reference as they established the weight for each parameters.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe we can move on to the conclusion. So to the fourth presentation of this session, that is entitled An Analysis of the Airbnb Market, a detailed look at 4 Italian cities.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I start screen sharing. Okay, you see my presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm Francesco Paolo Del Giudice, and the work is entitled An Analysis of the Airbnb Market, a detailed look at 4 Italian series. And it has been carried out in collaboration with Professor Benedetto Manganelli, Professor Francesco De Paola, Professor Francesco Tajani, and Engineer Federico Amato. The work is structured as follows. First, the definition of sharing economy and Airbnb will be provided. Then the advantages and disadvantages of Airbnb will be illustrated. Also, I will present the case study defining the data and variables under study. Next, I will discuss the methodology, results, and conclusion, also addressing the limitation and future development of the study. In the last decade, the sharing economy has gained increasing relevance as a social and economic phenomenon, generating a significant impact on consumption dynamics and shaping the contemporary economic landscape. Services such as carpooling with BlaBlaCar, household task management through TaskRabbit, or culinary experiences offered by Eatwit, pet hospitality with Dogvaki, or also bicycle and sports equipment rental through Spinlister, along with platforms like Uber for private transportation and Airbnb for accommodation, have all contributed to shaping this new mode of sharing. The sharing economy, or the economy of sharing, can be defined as an economic model in which individuals or business share access to resources, goods, or services through digital platform, either for free or for a fee. An emblematic example of sharing economy is represented by Airbnb, one of the mass online accommodation rental platform worldwide. Airbnb offers hosts who are the owners of the accommodation the opportunity to make available one or more rooms, an entire apartment, or even just a shared room. The platform's success has been fueled by the growing demand for personalized accommodation solutions from travelers that are different from the standard hotel. The platform has had a significant impact on the global economy, offering new income opportunities to hosts and allowing travelers to discover unique and authentic destinations. The advantages of this phenomenon for hosts, the Airbnb represent an opportunity to earn extra income. For guests, Airbnb offer a flexible and often more affordable alternative to traditional hotels. Also, for owners who have a second home, Airbnb provides a convenient way to monetize otherwise unused spaces, and also gives owners greater control of the management of their assets. For the disadvantages, one of the main is the potential unfair competition against traditional accommodation facilities, which must comply with specific regulation and standards regarding safety, taxation, and service quality. However, it has also triggered an increase in rental costs and consequently a reduction in the availability of long-term accommodation, all attributable to the intensification of the Airbnb listing contribute to distorting the real estate market through two interconnected mechanisms: conversion and gentrification. The study aims to empirically examine the Airbnb phenomenon in 4 Italian cities: Rome, Milan, Naples, and Bologna, over the course of a single year in the 2020, using a data set consisting of 62,810 property listings. Specifically, it provides us an interpretative framework of the Airbnb market in the 4 Italian series under study, using the combined application of principal component analysis and k-means clustering. For our research, we used a data set consisting of 62,810 listing of housing unit. The data was collected through the Inside Airbnb website in order to ensure accurate and homogeneous analysis, some restrictions were applied to the collected data, specifically Airbnb listings with more than 4 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms were excluded, as properties of such large sites could have significantly higher price compared to the average. Subsequently, listings with more than 15 reviews per month were removed, as they were considered extreme values or outliers. Also, listings with prices exceeding 300 euros per night were excluded, as they represent luxury or highly exclusive accommodation. To empirically examine the Airbnb market in the 4 Italian series under study, the analysis focuses on 4 main variables that are price, number of bedroom, number of reviews per month, and distance from a reference point in the series center. That is important that it should be noted that the number of reviews is a proxy variable for the employment rate. Following these processing steps, the dataset included 23,956 listings for Rome, 15,019 for Milan, 15,792 for Naples, and 3,203 for the series of Bologna. The interpretative framework of the Airbnb market in the 4 Italian series under investigation was empirically delineated using a combined approach of principal component analysis and cluster analysis based on the k-means algorithm. Principal component analysis, the primary purpose of this model is to reduce the dimensionality of the dataset while preserving most of the information contained in the original data. Essentially, the model examines and simplifies the data to understand the structure of the covariance matrix of a group of variables through a reduced set of linear combinations. The model is able to transform a set of correlated variables into a new set of uncorrelated variables called principal components, which are arranged in such a way that the first component explains the maximum variance in the data, the second component explains the maximum remaining variance, and so on. For the k-means clustering refers to a set of unsupervised learning techniques aiming at finding subgroups called cluster into a dataset. The aim is identifying a low-dimensional representation of the data explaining a sufficiently large fraction of the data variance. With clustering, the aim is determining homogeneous subgroups among the available observation. The results have related some interesting correlation among the variables under investigation. Regarding the price of accommodations, it has been observed that Rome is the most expensive city, followed in descending order by Milan, Bologna, and finally Naples. From the results of the clustering, Bologna, Milan, and Rome show a significantly negative correlation between price and distance from the center. Therefore, the prices of Airbnb listings follow the normal trend of the residential real estate market, where urban rent decreases from the center toward the outskirts. This different trend can likely be justified by considering that Naples is in a territorial context with numerous tourist attractions outside the historic center. Naples also has the greatest distance of Airbnb accommodation from the center, followed by Rome, Milan, and Bologna. This finding is also justified by the different spatial distribution of the city, because Bologna and Milan are monocentric cities. On the other hand, Rome, but to some Naples, can be considered polycentric cities with multiple areas of interest. The analysis also show a negative correlation between reviews and price, as well as between reviews and distance from the center. This implies that cheaper accommodation located in less central areas tend to have a higher number of reviews. For the first component, explained 35% of the data variability, while the second explained 28%. The first component discriminates based on price and number of rooms, while the second discriminates based only on distance and reviews. For the results of k-means are visualized in two-dimensional representation on the future space obtained using the two first principal components derived from the principal component analysis. For the cluster 1, we have low prices far from the center. For the cluster 2, medium-high prices not far distance, mostly 2 rooms. For the cluster 3, low prices, average distance, 1 room, and few reviews. For the cluster 4, low prices, short distance, 1 room, many reviews. The results suggest a significantly negative correlation between price and distance, except for the city of Naples. This indicates that while in cities like Rome, Milan, and Bologna, prices tend to decrease as the distance from the center increases. Naples, for its natural beauty and numerous cultural and artistic attractions, being a polycentric city, has numerous tourist attractions outside the historic center of the city. The results also highlight a negative correlation between reviews and price, as well as between reviews and distance from the center. This could indicate that travelers are willing to sacrifice the convenience of a central location to save money, or have a greater choice of accommodation with more reviews, which are considered more reliable. Furthermore, the results revealed that the Airbnb supply in the series under study is primarily concentrated on accommodation with 1 or 2 bedroom, which could reflect the prevalent demand for smaller accommodation suitable for couples or sole travelers, rather than larger groups. The study limitation, the methodology adopted is not dynamic, as it is based solely on cross-sectional data collected in a single time period, also in a single year. This approach may not fully capture the variation and evolution over time in home sharing practice and their socio-economic implication. Therefore, future methodologically approach could benefit from an analysis that captures the long-term dynamics and the trend of home sharing activity, as well as exploring how real estate markets, including informal ones, are changing due to the presence of the Airbnb. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your interesting research. And I would like to ask if there are some curiosity or question or observation for this work, this presented work. Also from home, there are some comments. Also something that can regard the previous presentation, obviously, if there are some also suggestions. Nothing? Okay, so maybe we can move on to concluding to handing this workshop session. And I thank you all the authors and the listener who took part in this whole workshop, which saw the participation of many scholars from faculties of Italy, and the scientific contribution made was of great interest, relevant and stimulating. The topics covered included current events and challenges for our society, such as the land use policy, the risk assessment and the feasibility analysis, the climate change issues, and also the implementation and improvement of cost-benefit analysis, and also the study of the short-term rental market, the social and the student housing market trends and dynamics, and also all the question and the critical issues, or also the retrieved gap in the literature and in the existent scientific contribution for what concerns the urban regeneration itself, and the building valuation model, the property valuation model, and in general the decision support system for achieving a unique target regarding also the several ones regarding the sphere of the economic, environmental, and social issues what concerns sustainable development goals. So finally, I would like to thank all the organizing committee of the conference for its work and availability and efficiency, and wish you a good continuation of the day. So see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.